afternoon or morning or evening. Austin Uku of Maximum Output. So a lot of you may have been drawn to the page due to fitness, but I just call it Maximum Output because ultimately I might end up going into a lot of different aspects of my life. Fitness is a huge part of it, but also acting, art in general, martial arts, drawing, not as much digital arts, but yeah. So essentially, the core behind Maximum Output is that I was really talented growing up in a lot of different things, and there was a point where I decided that I had to do athletics, so I just totally foregone my artistic career after that point, and then later on I started to pick up a lot of different other things, modeling. I fought professionally, and now acting. So at different points in my life, I felt that I needed to do this one thing, and then when I started to develop the Maximum Output concept. I started a clothing line. I'm drawing a comic book, and so I'm doing a lot of things. And sometimes I put energy into more things just because something comes up in the sphere of my existence where essentially it moves itself up the priority scale. So I have to put a little bit more emphasis on that. But ultimately, you just want to maximize your output. So maximize your life, your time, so your schedule, and sometimes your workout and your fitness. And so I stopped saying can't, and started to look for solutions. So how can I? Started to ask that question. And again, here mainly for fitness, so that's one of the things that we're going to focus on today. And the most important part of again, that whole concept, the whole fitness concept, is going to essentially be understanding pretty much yourself, your life, your existence, and what your goals are. All right, because if you don't prioritize whatever your goals are, then you're never going to get them. If you keep putting can'ts in the way, then essentially the can't is going to be true. All right, so when you start to look for the hows, all right, first ask what you want, then kind of go within yourself and figure out why you want that, how important is it going to be for you to actually achieve that. All right, and then once you do that and you put up that gold star priority on that particular goal of yours, then the next most important part is to look at the scope of your existence. All right, because ultimately you either have kids, you don't, you're either employed or you're not. All right, and there's the way that your life shapes up. It's not going to look like mine. It's not going to look like your husband, your partner, your spouse. It's not going to look like your co-workers. So a plan is great to have. All right, but your personal plan is the best plan you could possibly have, and that's going to be based off of what your life looks like. So it's all about looking at where the gaps are, all right, and then how you can fill them effectively. All right, and again, if it's not a priority, because the way my life looks is totally different than other people's, so you can or can't have an hour and a half to work out and half hour to an hour to walk over the course of the day, but you might be able to do maybe two 20-minute walks and maybe a 35-minute workout 3-4 times a week, or even 2 times a week. All right, and then you can kind of splice it up so that ultimately you figure out what you need to do to move yourself forward. All right, and then ultimately you have to start looking for what I like to call life hacks. All right, and so what's a life hack? So essentially, once you develop what your plan is, you want to constantly look for ways to make that plan more efficient. All right, so within that, it could be something as simple as figuring out a meal prep system. All right, some people actually do it a couple days a week. They'll essentially cook all their meals, have them in little plastic containers. All right, and then they'll do that. Or you can just develop a system to be able to cook faster, so get in and out of the kitchen where you're cooking and cleaning simultaneously, so that you don't essentially waste 2 hours on a meal process. And then, what happens is when you do something like that, you're like, oh, I gotta do this every time. And so you're gonna be less likely to do it. Ultimately, you wanna build systems so that you're more likely to be able to repeat them. All right, so ultimately, everything you wanna build a repeatable process. All right, and that starts off with, again, looking at your life and essentially how you live. All right, so if you just roll up out of the bed, it's like, all right, here we go, we'll figure this thing out. Then essentially you have to build a system every day to get through that day. All right, and that's a really inefficient process. But when you think about essentially, how you have to get to work, you want to get to work on time. All right, you might want to have time later on to work out, or you actually can't work out this particular day. And the next day you might be able to work out. All right, and then put that in there, and then also getting in and out of your workouts. So that's a system in itself. And so I have these, essentially I call them a supplement bomb, but essentially have your shaker bottle, have your pre-workout in there. So whether it's aminos, whether it's whatever, all right, and whatever your post-workout plan is, I like to say that if you're not supplementing, you're cheating yourself. That's a whole different conversation that we're not going to get into now. But if you have your post-workout supplements already in a container, now you can get in and out of that workout pretty efficiently. Are you going to have to shower afterwards? Give yourself enough time to shower. What I'll do is I'll say, hey Siri will come on, and then I'll set an alarm. I'm like, okay, I need at least 30 minutes to get out of the gym, or at least 20 minutes to get out of the gym and to where I need to be. Do I need travel time? Set an alarm on your phone. All right, so there's a lot of ways that you can build a system, and all you have to do is build it once. Once you build it, it's built. And then you can just warm up that program. All right, I got an audition. All right, I still want to train today. Am I going to have to train on the back end, or am I going to train before? Well, I think I need to concentrate a little bit more, or I need to get the jitters out of my system. So if you're one of the people that need to settle down before you need something, then you might want to put it on the back end. All right, if you have some nervous energy that you just want to knock out, then you'd probably put it on the front end. And that again goes back to knowing yourself. All right, because if you don't know yourself, you're probably going to be building an inefficient system. Now, like I said, a plan is better than no plan, but your plan is best. Sometimes if you just take something that's already built, even nutrition can be a system. All right, some people call it diet. I just call it, eating. So it's a lot easier for me to understand nutrition whenever you break it down to the bare bones components. All right, essentially, how it makes sense to me. And again, everything I say it's a suggestion. All right. Now, I like to think I'm an expert I'm an expert in certain situations for myself, and I've been around fitness for 15 plus years, more or less, as far as a professional 15 years. But prior to that, thinking about it, I've been doing that for a lot longer than that. And there's something to be said about the 10,000 hours of a task and getting to mastery. So to a certain extent, I've mastered, my personal fitness, and there's definitely different levels of mastery too. And so, but I digress. Where was I? Okay, yeah, your system. Now, everything you eat is either fuel or material. All right, so ultimately, you need enough fuel to get through what you're going to do. So the task that you're giving your body. So it's your body's kind of like a machine. It's the most beautifully designed, perfect machine out there, and it's adaptable, and sometimes it changes. Once you learn the gears of it, you can do a lot more than you think with this machine that you've been gifted. Now, it runs on fuel, all right, and the process of fitness and working out is you break the machine down, and your body understands the stresses that were placed against it and understands that it needs to further fortify itself to be able to deal with those stresses in the future. So once you put the material in, so that's going to be your proteins and aminos, those are going to be the bricks and mortar that you get to recondition your physique with. All right, now that whole process takes energy, the rebuilding process, but also the construction process, as far as the demolition part of the construction process. So when you're breaking your body down, that costs energy, and in the rebuilding process, that also costs energy. All right, and so once you understand that sugars and fats and carbs in general, they're not bad. It's just fuel. All right, but again, if you overfill the tank, then eventually there's going to be a spillover. All right, and the other side of that coin is if you underfill the tank, you're going to start breaking down the bricks and mortar to get through the tasks that you're tasking your body with. All right, and so that's a whole nother question as far as base metabolism. So we're not going to get into today, but we will get into at some point in time if you hang in there long enough. Now, when you build a system, or actually back to not needing to necessarily build a system from scratch, all right, but sometimes you can Frankenstein a system. All right, so say something's already out there. So say there's a popular one nowadays is keto. So there's keto, there's paleo, there's all kinds of other stuff out there. All right, and so pescatarian, there's vegan, there's vegetarian. All right, and so sometimes you might not know the difference between any